Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on the Challenge All-Stars for Episode 7. That is right. I'm your host, Chris, and I'm back with Kahuna. Kahuna, we just had a very quick chat before we went live. Both of us felt like this episode just flew by this week. It felt really, really quick.
Yeah, pretty briskly paced. There wasn't a lot of extras there and putting all the drama and stuff. We got a couple of really cool human interest stories, which I think kind of helped in bit of praise to the editors actually, because it did felt quick, it felt brisk, it didn't feel like it was slow at all. But we got a few stories there which kind of was like, it wasn't the same giveaway where we go, oh, the person who got the call home goes home. Like, I was like, at first I was like, oh, Ryan's going home this episode.
Same.
And
yeah, they got me.
There was enough there. They put enough different things in where it wasn't so obvious. So I liked it. It was good.
Yeah. Same as you. I was very fearful for Ryan when we got so much backstory from him, and we'll obviously go into all of that into further detail. I wasn't aware of the struggles he had, so obviously we'll talk about that a little bit. And for those people that do struggle with addiction out there, I can't even imagine what it's like, when you're in that sort of hole and how much willpower it would take to get out of it. But let's say hello to a few people here in the live. We've got Kiwi back as always. We've got Chris. Welcome, Chris. We've got Georgette. We've got Thana. And also, people, please make Georgette feel welcome. And not new to the challenge, not normally someone I see in the challenge actually lives. And Georgette, for those who don't know, is one of our first 50 subscribers on the channel. She's been with this channel since day one. So we appreciate you, Georgette, for being here on the challenge journey with us. And All-Stars is a difficult one to get into because it's got so many old school players. So you're diving in deep, Georgette, with this season. She says, hello peeps, new to the challenge, but enjoy listening to your podcast. Poured a glass of wine to enjoy while sit and relax with you all. We love having you here, Georgette. We also have Deanna in the live. We've got Elise. Dolores is back as well, saying, hello. Let me get my hand fan out and sit back and hear your views. How funny is it that, Kahuna just told me he's got a heater on where he's sitting, and on the other side of the world, we've got a hand fan out to cool down, Kahuna.
Hey, man, Melbourne and Melbourne aren't the same.
Yeah. Sydney and Melbourne, or Melbourne and Melbourne. Yeah, I get you. Melbourne, Florida, and Melbourne over in Australia. Georgette says, Kahuna, your prayers are being answered. You are getting more Ace content.
The eventual winner, I'm sure.
Yeah. Ace is a strange cat, isn't he?
Yeah, man. I don't know if I like it or not. I'm certainly intrigued. I'm like, this dude is weird, but I'm like, hey, now I'm like all behind Ace. I'm like, we got Aces in places. We got him dropping like innuendo accidentally. We got story time with Ace. Like, I don't know if that sort of stuff gets points, but it certainly should. He's trying to entertain the people with things like that. So I'm like, yeah, Ace, get in there, man. He's doing good.
He's got the weirdest logic when it comes to playing this game. So it's just, he's an interesting guy. I don't know if I don't dislike the guy, but I don't know if he's like my favorite all-star of this season either. It's just interesting. Anyways, we'll talk about it a little bit more. Let's say hello to a few more people here. If we can see anybody new that have dropped in. Chris is saying Ace is a storyteller. He's kind of like Jonathan Penner from Survivor, the exact archetype Jonathan Penner was, a bit of a storyteller on the show, giving us all of the juicy content in the confessionals. Sue is saying that he is funny. Georgette is old school. Yay. Yep, Dolores knows Georgette well because Dolores has also been here right from the start. But we start off here early on, like you said, with Ryan talking about the addiction that, he was on drugs, and there was this time during COVID that, he went down this hole, which I think a lot of people can relate to, right? If you already had an addiction, if you already had some stuff that you were struggling with, I think being locked up at home for a couple of years there probably didn't help. And we know that there was a massive mental health I would almost say epidemic that happened after COVID or during COVID as well, that probably still is underreported in some circles. And, Ryan's escape was doing some of these things that probably wasn't good for him. And he knew that his body was telling him he had to stop that. And what a story, what a powerful story, Kuna, for people who, you know, go through something like this as well. Seeing someone like Ryan out there, getting off it, trying to have that positive habit. Like I said, I can't relate to it. I've never been on that same journey that he has been on, but I can imagine it must have been one hell of a journey to try and get to where he is today.
Yeah. Look, I think I never actually diagnosed or anything, but I'm pretty sure I've got a very strong addiction to like food. Still have it today, and I'm really thankful that it wasn't to something like heroin or you know, because I do have a very addictive personality. Like when someone approached me on Facebook a couple of years ago to start a podcast, I'm like, yeah, let's do 3 a week. Let's, you know what I mean? Like I do
All
have
in.
a very, I throw myself into things. It's maybe
Yeah.
undiagnosed ADHD, I don't know, but I do have a bit of an addictive personality, so I can certainly relate. And man, if it was something that powerful, like that can absolutely just ruin lives, it's really tough. But it's I kind of loved seeing it, not for, you know, having someone go through that, but on the show. Like I think this is kind of what, I don't know if this was the intent of All Stars when Mark Long was saying OG season and all that, but the idea of seeing these people that we haven't seen in a long time, like Ryan was on All Stars 3 and all that, but to have these people that have been gone and to see what life has done to them. Like you see these young 20-year-olds that are going to conquer the world. They're unbreakable. They're invincible. They drink, they party, they do anything they want. And then 20 years later, it's like, where are these people? Some of them are incredibly successful. Some of them family and kids. Some of them struggling with what life has thrown at them in terms of, you know, addiction and things like that. And seeing that timeline is really like not necessarily intriguing like storytelling, but it's what real life is, and we get to see these people on TV. And I thought it was incredibly relatable, not only what he was saying, but what Brad was saying. Like he's got a lot of stuff going on at home, like the fact that Brad is struggling this season because of, like, you know, divorce and kids and stuff. And as someone in their 40s, I'm like, man, this is like real stuff. It's not just reality TV, even though it is reality TV. But what I like about it, and I'm ranting here, I'm sorry, Chris. What I like about it is the challenge, as much as it is competition reality TV in the vein of a Survivor and Big Brother and stuff like that, but it was founded in the real world. And Road Rules, which, well, not the Road Rules as much, but the real world was about 7 people picked to live in a house and see how they interact and what their life is, and was meant to show a slice of life. And this is kind of taking that original inspiration and showing these are people that have lived a life, and we get to hear about it. You know, it's really good TV at sometimes, you know, when you can, not too much, but you can mix it in there a little bit, at least on a format like All Stars. It may not fit as well with the main season, because they're just like, man, I had a great holiday again doing this 24/7. This is our life. This is how we get paid. It's a very
you don't think
scenario.
that the Fessy introvert story hits the same, like his struggles with being an introvert?
It does not. It does not.
It does not hit the same for you.
Like,
I agree. I mean, listen, I can't, like, you know, you said you're ranting, but, you know, I was just thinking to myself, let you cook when you were talking, because you were spinning a lot of like truths there. And I think that, you know, it's interesting because not only did we get a little bit of a backstory here from Brad, and he's going through struggles, he's having a difficult season. We got, obviously, like you said, Ryan going through this and talking about his own addictions and struggles. And then also you had Adam talking a little bit about, you know, relating with Ryan here early on about, you know, how he was basically, when he was younger, what we in Australia would call you're being a little shit when you think you know everything, but you actually don't. He was being a little shit, basically, when he was younger. And he can acknowledge that he probably didn't always come across as the best person back then. So I think a lot of growth. This was like, if this episode was titled anything, it's like an episode of growth and seeing where people were. Like, I mean, you've got reunions at school for a reason. I've never been to one, but I think I've got one coming up pretty soon, you know. But they do these reunions after 10 years, after 20 years, and so forth, because you see people grow, and they're not the same people they were when they were back in school. And it's similar probably in some ways to the challenge and seeing these players coming back and playing. But it was interesting to see how the cast actually let the game go for a bit this episode. They actually were like, we care for Ryan, and him being sober more than getting him out in the game, and they were willing not to send him down into the arena, which was very interesting to me, because a lot of these people are game players, but it seems like real life kind of came into play here when they had to make the nominations at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely see, I can't pinpoint a specific time it's happened, but you get the vibe anyway that, like, if someone had been that open about an addiction, it might have actually been targeted. Like, we'll put him in then, like, you know, like, because of that kind of thing. But these are, like I said, real people have real lives, and they're playing a game, but doesn't stop them from having those very real lives and very real circumstances, which you cannot just leave at the door. You can't always leave at home, because that's who they are, you know?
Yeah. Well, let's move on, because Kiwi doesn't like the real life story. She's like, let's keep it moving, boys.
Of that with all the other shows, right? All the other formats. Like I said, the main season doesn't have that, and that's okay. Like, but this one catered specifically and aimed at the OG fans and the older people. It's
people want to know where these people are at. Like, I feel like people who've been like, again, I'm similar to Kiwi. I like the game. I prefer for me personally, I prefer the and people are going to hate me for saying this. I prefer the new school games. I prefer the current seasons. Like, last season had its ups and its downs and wasn't a perfect season. But, you know, for me, I like that these people are going out there to play the game. I watch reality TV for an escape, but I can also appreciate that the show was built on the old school players, and having that backstory would mean a lot to a lot of people. So, you know, it's a balancing act for me when it comes to it. Let's say hello to Sylvia Kahuna. Very first time in the live. Welcome. We appreciate that you're checking us out live. And Sylvia said, missed hearing real stories on the challenge. So there you go. So Sylvia is on the other side here, really loves the personal stories being brought in. And like I said, I can see how it caters to different types of challenge fans for sure. Chris is saying, it's reality TV. It needs to feel real. You must love the Olympics. The Olympics is fun. Like, what do you have against the Olympics, Chris?
I mean, I can't. There's some great stories in the Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently most of the best stories happens at the athlete park, where all the athletes are together afterwards. And Usain Bolt's been in a few of those stories after his races. So they could probably make a whole reality TV show of what happens on what happens in the athlete park after the Olympics. I reckon, like, if you had a camera in there would be a lot of juicy drama that would come from that. Probably better than what we see on reality TV.
Well, I heard that one of the funny stories to come out of is this year the upcoming, I think this year's the Winter Olympics again, right?
Yeah.
24. But they were like, one thing that has changed from this one to the most recent one that was in Japan but delayed because of COVID is that they're going to allow condoms again in the athlete village. And they're just stocking up. They're like, because the last Olympics, no one could see anyone or like go anywhere or do anything. They were like confined, and it was during COVID, like post-COVID kind of thing. This is like, they're gonna go wild.
Who knows? They may have like the future 100-meter sprint champion being born, or what's it, conceived, or what's the word for it? When you at this next Winter Olympics, you may have a future Olympian. Yeah. Moving on. Dolores say, personally, I'm happy with a happy medium. I prefer more strategy and competitions, but I don't mind backstories. Totally agree. Chris saying, I don't have anything against the Olympics. I'm an American. We love it over here. But if you want to watch pure competition, watch that. Yeah, fair enough. I like both. Like I said, I like Chris is like, I'm just wanting to watch like the athletes. I like a little bit of spice. I like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, like all of it. Thana saying Summer Olympics this year, Paris Summer Olympics in 2024. I am hyped for the Olympics this year. Oh wow, we may have to do an Olympic special. I don't know if we're qualified though to talk about the Olympics, Kahuna.
Yeah. I mean, we in Australia, we only like really pay attention to like the first 2 weeks, because that's swimming, and it's like the only thing we're actually good at. And there's like
that in field hockey,
day or two. Sorry,
like Australia's good at field hockey as well.
Yeah, but like as far as like having multiple events and all that, like that first week, there are times where Australia might even get towards the top of the medal tally, and we're like, yeah, Australia. And then it kind of tapers off, because swimming, summer stuff, that's pretty good in Australia. So
Georgette says, I'm a curler, so I prefer the Winter Olympics.
Wow, curling.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
then Q says we have enough reality shows that cover backstories. Doesn't need it to be in every show. I think that backstories, like there is a place for it, in my opinion. Like, yes, if the whole season is just this backstory, like the Banu backstory of Survivor, the whining, I couldn't handle. Like, it just got to a point where I'm just like, this is too much for me. But seeing a little snippet here of Ryan, like, it didn't annoy me. This was the first time it came out, and in fact, I felt like I learned something from Ryan. Like, I didn't know this about Ryan. I didn't know he had these struggles. So in some ways, I didn't feel like it was overplayed, at least. A lot of Olympic stories coming out. YouTube Big Cat saying rowing and gymnastic women's. Q says Olympics is a little bit boring. I only watch it if we're competing in it. And trying to think what New Zealand, like New Zealand's had some rowers. Like I think New Zealand's normally got really good rowers. Yeah, from memory. And we had this one girl a couple of years ago that was really. Oh, we had the shot put girl. I forgot.
Yeah.
Her brother's the NBA player. I forgot
Steven
her name
Adams.
now. Steven Adams. I forgot her name, but she's Adams as well. So she's a world champion gold medalist from memory. So yeah, you've got some talent coming from there. But obviously the US dominates. US and China.
Into the Olympics.
It's always the US and China. And is Russia okay with Olympics? I can't remember. I feel like China does a lot.
Russia's big.
Yeah.
But that's because for a long time they were maybe not following all the rules.
There you go. I didn't even know that. New Zealand has a good male high jumper at the moment as well. Kiwi's on it. Yeah, so
Russia's for their Ukraine stuff is not involved.
Kiwi saying Ryan wasn't too bad and did make me understand him a little more, so I'll let you have that one. There we go. We got Kiwi to crack a little bit. We got it to crack. Lovable Nikki is in the house. Hello, lovable Nikki. I hope you're doing well. So, by the way, Kiwi, we've gone on a little bit of an Olympics tangent here. If you're wondering why YouTube Big Cat is saying Russia is great, wonderful drugs. So I think we'll slightly move on from the Olympics, and we'll move back to the season. So, what did you think of Ace's admiration for Brad? And like Brad was like his Superman, when he was younger, he wanted to be like Brad, grow up to be as cool as Brad. And obviously this is where the Brad backstory comes in, where he's like, even Superman has problems back at home, type of thing. To me, it was kind of strange. I'm not going to lie. It kind of reminded me of the Dusty love for bananas a couple of seasons ago in USA.
Well, it can be taken two ways, right? If you see someone who's sitting there going, man, I've had it really tough. I've had a hard couple years back home. Like, my personal life is not the best. And you hype him. He's a hype man. He's like, man, you're Superman. Like, you're awesome. Like, if that's the angle, then like, hats off to Ace. That's propping up a man that needs a bit of love and attention at that moment. But if it is genuinely like he really admires him, it's a little bit weird to see someone that way. But I think he's just being a mate. Like, I think he's really like, nah, man, come on. Like, you got this kind of thing, like hyping him up a bit. And if that's what it was, then good on it. Because Kara did the same thing. Kara's Superwoman herself kind of thing. And she was saying it to Brad as well, because I think they were just having a bit of a moment. And again, sorry, Kiwi Skirt, but they're humans connecting, and if he's doing it in order to do that, then I'm all for it. But if he's really just glazing him up and sees him as like this unbeatable Superman, it's a little bit weird.
It's like, what show did you watch? Like, Brad's been pretty good over the years, but he's never been like that level of dominant. I think that All Stars has been good to Brad. Like, since he's been an All Stars, he has had a good run until this season. And you're right, Cara Maria, she also obviously mentions, hey, like, not only, you're someone who's been great in the challenge, but Leroy's also been great in the past, and he's having a tough season as well, which Leroy admits himself. It's been bizarre that the guy that went first and second in both draft picks that we did, the draft pick that we did with you included, and also the draft pick that we did between myself, Reality Realness, and Angel Cake, and both of those draft picks, those were picks number 1 and 2, right? And they're the two people who struggle the most. And it really has me thinking at this stage, Kahuna, I just don't see a guy winning this season. Like, I'm bold enough to call it right now. I just think that if I had to put my money on someone right now, Cara Maria is getting a juicy edit. I think she's got a very solid shot at it if she gets to the end. And I don't know if anybody's going to be able to take her out. And then you've got other really big players in the game still that we're seeing less of before, because I actually felt like in this episode that the producers listened to some of the podcasts out there. I don't think they would have listened to our podcast because we're not that big yet. But they may have listened to, I'm sure other podcasts have said the same thing, that it's just gross to see so much of Laurel and Nicole on our screens, because we didn't get to see much of Laurel at all. I think she had maybe 1 or 2 confessionals, but we know she's a beast as well. So I really do think that the men are just not up to speed. Like I just don't see, like if Leroy and Brad's not showing up, and Leroy did win this trivia challenge, but I mean, it was trivia. Like, how much can you really put on that for future success when it comes to the season of the challenge? I'm kind of leaning towards a woman winning the season at this point.
I think that's what they want. Like, anytime there's a solo winner, if a female, if a woman, I said female, that sounds so gross sometimes when men say that.
Yeah.
If a if a woman can win it, I think they always love when that happens. Like it just sort of throws back in the face of the people that go, "Oh, it's completely unfair. Like, how can you do that?" kind of thing. So, yeah, like it certainly looks like that might be the case when people at the head, like you would think of the top male competitors or the top men competitors, are just not up to snuff this season, which is really kind of sucky for Brad because he had such a good showing in All Stars 3. It just happened to be on the season when Wes was on. Like, you know, I'm like, oh man, if you could swap those two and have like give Brad a really good season this season when, you know, when Leroy's struggling, like that would have been great for Brad, you know, but he's doing it tough this year, man. He's doing it tough on this season. Like Adam still looks very good. Like there's certainly guys on the season that are more than capable.
I just don't see him in a final. I just don't see him like he's obviously, Adam is a smart guy. He is someone, again, we can talk about the arena later on and how much it really adds to his credibility. It was a memory game, I guess, at the end of it. But, you know, for me, I just don't see him like, and again, if they make the final easier, if it's less distance running, which I don't think there will be, I think they have made amendments to the season to make it easier for the older school players to keep up. I just think Adam gets blown out of the water if it's something in the final where there's a lot of running or something like that. I just don't know how he keeps up with a Cara Maria, a Laurel, a Nicole, and maybe even a Jay at this stage. Like Jay's being underestimated. I mean, he could be I know Chris is listening out for this one, but listen, the more people that are falling around he's looking pretty. Yep. Like we saw him in the treadmill. He's clearly got some cardio. I don't think he's I don't think he's a very dumb. I think he's a smart guy. Depending on how the food challenge goes, but any food challenge that's thrown at Jay this season, he is going to smash it. We both know it. He's not going to want to go back home to have people say you had another shot and you flopped at the food challenge again. Even if he has to throw up, he's going to eat it. Like, so I really think he could be a sleeper.
Yeah. I mean, Steve's looking good. Everyone knows Ace is probably going to win the whole thing. At least I'm hoping for the draft. Ace. Nah, Steve looks good. I think Adam's got to, like, any of these guys certainly seem like they could win on paper, but when you take into consideration the edit, you're right. Like, Kara's looking really strong at this point.
Chris is saying, Jay mentioned, very happy about that. Let's go back to a few more of the comments. YouTube Cat saying, Ace is so weird. I don't think he gets that there is a competition, both physical, social, and strategic. I do think that he seems like a nice guy, but some of his shortcomings is being exposed because he's getting more airtime than what we're used to. He's normally gone by this time of a season when he plays, so he's kind of gone past how far he would normally go in a season. Kiwi says, oh wow, Dusty's love for bananas. Not sure anyone can be worse than that. That's true. Sue says, did you see the look on Brad's face when Ace was singing that song? I don't remember that. What song was it that he was singing?
No, the storytelling about the night.
Yeah, that was bizarre. Like it was the whole I kind of feel like he's a Dungeons and Dragons fan, or like, you know, like the night story. I kind of tuned out a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, Brad was not happy. But how would you feel? Somebody has just gaslit you, and probably didn't gaslight him, he probably did try and be nice to him, but he was telling you how much he admired you as a player and looks up to you. And there's this talk about them being friends, which I didn't know that Ace and Brad was that close. And then for him to say, Brad, we're going to be throwing you in there. And I get Ace's point. Ace is like, Brad's a badass. He wants this. He wants to go out there and get the star. Brad's like, I'm going to get an opportunity to do that later in the season. I don't need to put myself at risk right now because TJ will give everybody an opportunity at some point to go get a star. I'd rather do it at the end so I can stay longer in the game. That's Brad's thinking, probably at this stage.
I think Ace was right, though. Like, when considering who was there, like, in his thinking, I think he was like, yeah, of course, this is what the house would, this is what people should be thinking, because Ryan, people didn't want to put Ryan in because of his circumstances, and Steve, a third time, would be like, they all agreed in the nominations as well, but he's just sort of picking up that and putting the pieces together and thinking everyone would be on the same page. And he said, like, I thought everyone would be on the same page. Clearly not. So there's a bit of a, when they said you have to be social and strategic, there was a misread there for sure. Like, Brad even said, you got to read the room, man. Like, look at my face.
Not everybody's had the same great day that you've had.
Yeah. It was great. Like, I thought Ace is, so far, the fact that one of the most entertaining bits was his Aces in Places bit from Kara. He's sleeping on the couch all the time, which we got another bit of that this week, which I thought was really funny.
And the trivia, because he couldn't pick the color of the couches that he sleeps on all the time. Like, it's insane the amount of time. She's like, can you put like a montage? Can you put this is why Cara Maria is like, she is. Again, everybody know, like, people are going to say this is Chris going off because he loves Kara so much. But again, she is carrying a lot of the confessionals for me. She's like, can you guys just put a montage together of all of the times that he slept on the couch and still got the color wrong? Like, I mean, that is what producers are looking for, is for someone that can, get moments together like that they can use for TV clips. And I thought it was a brilliant clip this week.
Quick, Chris, what's the color of your couch?
Gray. I can see it in the camera as well. I know the color of my couch. Don't be testing me like that, okay? But it's funny. Ace is like, oh well, I don't look at it. I sleep on it.
I usually have my eyes closed.
Not an excuse. Not an excuse. While we're talking about, like, in fact, I need to bring up some more comments. People have left a lot of comments here, so let me go and read this. Shay, welcome to the live, saying Ace is my new favorite. Normally, he doesn't last long enough for us to see his personality. I think there's a lot of new Ace fans out there, and he's a kooky character, but I can see, like, he's kind of unique. Like, I don't think there is another Ace in the challenge, so he's the Ace in the hole.
You know what I love about Ace? Like, I heard that he does like a physical job. He's like out and doing stuff, getting dirty. But it feels like, at least on this season, he's wearing the same 2 shirts or something that he does.
He's a simple man.
They're dirty. They look kind of gross, and he's just wearing them every confessional. Like, it's funny.
Yeah, let's see what people are saying here. Kiwi's gonna say that true was unfair. Spelling was so up and down. Let's talk about. I wanted to bring this up, and I know there's a lot of comments coming up. But while we've got somebody mentioning the trivia here, trivia was interesting this time around, because at one point with the second group, I feel like TJ ran out of questions and he just started giving them words to spell. There was like 8 or 9 words in a row that they had to spell. I'm like, did you run out of trivia questions? What are we doing?
It's a spelling bee.
Yeah, it's a spelling bee with a little bit of sprinkle of trivia on top of it.
Yeah. I mean, I love trivia. Like, trivia is like kind of my thing. I've hosted trivia nights when I used to do streaming and stuff on Twitch, and that I used to watch trivia shows and try to beat them. Like, that was my.
I'm going to put you on the spot now because you're the trivia guy. Can you name the South African big 5 animals?
I knew Springbok. I definitely knew Springbok.
Springbok's not a big 5, but Springbok's the national.
The national animal. Oh, the big 5.
Yeah.
What was it? It was
big 5.
There's elephant.
Yep, 1.
Hippopotamus?
No. Keep going.
I don't know the big 5.
Okay, so
there was a big 5.
So obviously Leroy had the animal wrong. I knew the animal because the Springboks is also the
football,
the national. It's the rugby team, right? It's named after the.
That's the only reason why I know it.
Yeah, but anyway, so it's the lion, which makes sense. That's what Leroy thought the national animal was. It's the elephant, the buffalo, the leopard, which they left out, and the rhinoceros.
Where's the hippo in that?
Hippo's not in the big 5.
Disrespect to the hippo, man.
The rhino.
You know they're the
Yeah,
biggest man killer in the world.
Yeah,
They can come out of the
believe
water
it.
at 30 miles an hour. Like,
Yeah,
they're monsters, man.
they had a lot of the trivia questions actually had a lot of South African things in it, so it was quite interesting. They even had 2 or 3 Afrikaans words being thrown in there.
Yeah. Can you
which
get
was
the
interesting
spelling
for
on
me,
them?
obviously, because I speak Afrikaans. Yeah, so it's like, oh, okay, we've got lekker, which means fun, great, lekker time, which is spelled Lekker, and they spelled it Laka or
LAKA.
something like that. Yeah, which I don't.
And a brie? A brie?
And a braai is a barbecue. It's a barbecue in South
Yeah.
Africa. So yeah, so they had some South
This is
African
one that
stuff
you
in
would
there,
have
which was
smashed, Chris. You're like,
I
I
would have
know all of
smashed it.
these.
I was like, yeah, why do these Americans not know any of these South African trivia questions? But the other part of it that was interesting is that a lot of the trivia actually related to the current season and knowing, like having taken note of some of the things that happened within the season, which I thought was a great equalizer for people who just don't have great general knowledge. At least if you paid attention this season, you would have a chance to compete against people like Veronica, who clearly has some higher education, playing this game.
Berkeley,
yeah, and she still ended up smashing it with Leroy. They still ended up winning. Here, YouTube Cat actually says this as well. I like the trivia having South African culture questions. Totally agree. I can see Steve in the final. I can see Steve in the final as well. I think people are tired of throwing him in, and he's going to get a bit of a pass for a little bit now, which is great for him. George is also saying Steve and Ace, I think they're being underestimated. I do think so as well. It's going to be interesting to see how Ace does when he actually has to go into the arena, because that's where he normally struggles. I don't think he's ever in his challenge career actually won an elimination. So that's going to be his real challenge to get to the end. Kiwi saying it isn't looking like a typical season of knowing who will make it to the end. It is far more unpredictable this season. Totally agree. Ouch, YouTube Bearcat. Just calling him a doofus. I think he's a lovable goof. He's the opposite of what Josh is. He's a lovable goof, And then we've got Elise saying, I think Adam said he ran triathlons in recent podcast. I could be mistaken. Wow, if that's the case, then he could smash it in the end, and we may not be aware. I just feel very lucky that I've chosen Adam as my last pick on the draft, and he is doing as well as he's doing this season. Now we know why Drew's not around this week, because he lost Brad in our draft. That's why Drew's like, I'm not picking up, I'm not bouncing in for this one. I'll wait a couple of weeks until I catch up on the points, because I'm pretty sure he'd be at home being like, pretty angry at Brad, probably doing the Brad eyes at the same time.
You probably just extended further.
Yeah. Chris saying those couches do look green and white to me, though. Gray. Yeah.
That was that was very pedantic. Yeah. I was like looking at it going, I mean, they're kind of white, but then they showed when Ace was sleeping on it and he had a white pillow. I was like, okay, the white pillow against the gray, there was a very clear difference there.
Yeah. Dolores with the very important question here. Quick, what's the color of your underwear?
What underwear?
Yeah, exactly. It's always the right answer.
Don't make me stand up.
Oh, man. Dolores saying, oh, that was evil Dolores. Let's have a look here. What else people are saying? Elisa saying, yeah, Ace is gross. Adam said Ace was basically taking a bath in the jacuzzi, and they had to have the jacuzzi changed. Also made me think of Laurel and Nicole messing around in there. Elise, why did you have to put these visuals in our mind? Yeah. YouTube gets it. In Africa, the big 5 game animals are the lion, leopard, rhinoceros, elephant, and
game animals. That makes sense, because you don't hunt hippos. You don't hunt hippos. Yeah. They hunt you. Did you know hippos can listen underwater while looking above it at the same time? Man.
Yeah. We've got people checking us on the Drew comments. Don't do Drew, Chris. Stop it. And then Chris is bouncing. It's a lot of people from the bakery in here, which we've got to be careful, when we talk about Drew.
But I respect.
We got his back. Like, listen, he can bounce in whenever he wants to. Like, it's he knows this. He knows this. We won't hold it against him that he's not showing up today. But yeah, I think trivia interesting. Hit and miss for me on how it went. What did you think of the the mechanism of pulling them apart from each other. And Steve's comment about, Cam and her being in this, I don't know what it was, like a horror movie, and she's saying, I love you too. And then they went away. I thought it was a bit strange with Leroy standing on the sidelines of watching Cam being out there with Steve. It was an interesting choice of words. I'm sure Leroy would have been having some words after the episode aired.
Yeah, it was good though. It was good TV. I do think like TJ loved it. Maybe not to the extent like a JLP would do on Australian Survivor, but he was really loving being able to say they were jerked off every single time. He goes, they were hitting that extra hard every time. Getting jerked off the platform. But TJ, I like the mechanism. Like, I don't know why the challenge, when they've had trivia and they've had falling into the water from great heights so many times, where we've actually seen injuries, like people get hurt, like broken noses, things like that. And this one, they made it so that there was no possible way you could kind of protect yourself by being flung backwards and awkwardly, like weird angles. They're like, we want to hurt our people. We want to do it in the way that could potentially cause the most injuries. Because like when Flora hit really hard and she said like she hurt all down her side. Ryan, I don't know if it happened on this challenge, but you see in confessionals, he had a massive bruise on the inside of his arm. I'm like, was that from this? But they're like, I
think it was.
They put their people through it, man. They put their people through it. And I dig that. But as I said, trivia is like my thing, but I wasn't happy with this trivia. Like the mechanism was great.
Don't change it.
Man.
Like this is like the one thing they've still kept at this point. They've already modified the challenge for the older folks a lot this season. Keep the falls and things like that in there, and just make sure everybody, if you're going to go play the challenge, you have health insurance. Just get health insurance. Like, do not go do the challenge without getting health insurance, because they're going to do these things every single time. Chris saying, my good night was not in reference to Drew. And Thana saying, bakery crew shout out. We also have Georgette saying, hippos kill 3,000 people per year. That is a staggering number. I didn't know it's that high.
Hippos, man.
Yeah. Well, they move like hippos for how big they are. Like if you're in a boat on a river or something and they chase you, they motor. Like I don't know exactly how fast they can go, but it's for the size of their bodies, they shouldn't be able to move that fast. Palava Girl says, I only knew of Iceland capital. It's Reykjavik because of Craig Ferguson talk show. He always used to preamble to stupid questions. But listen, I knew Reykjavik was the capital of Iceland. I don't think I would have been able to spell it off the top of my head if somebody asked me in a pressure situation like that. I don't even think I can spell it right now.
That was unfair. Like the mission to have mission be one of the words, and then Reykjavik be another word. Like the variance in those, like it was just luck of the draw at that point, right?
Yeah. Or like Gauntlet. How do you not know how to spell Gauntlet? Like you've been on the season for Gauntlet. It's interesting. Chris says there is so much nonsense going on. You all can't even keep it straight. The shit you say. Hey, listen, this is what you come for. You come for a little bit of a sprinkle of challenge talk and a whole lot of nonsense being talked on the podcast over here. We try and entertain. Dolores says Leroy didn't hear it. They whispered it. On the side, so he couldn't hear it. And then Palava Girl says, yes, Kahuna, that's TJ's twisted kink hurting them. He laughs every single time that happens. He enjoys it so much. He comes from the BMX world. Like he's used to seeing people get hurt.
Yeah.
Thana says, I don't mind there being a fall, but it shouldn't be so high. I think it's the angle. I think the fact that the bungee cords rip them back and then releases them puts you off balance. So whenever you go and dive into water, you're falling sideways, which is a lot worse than actually going feet down first or head down first, right? So I think that's what sort of brought the danger to it. Kiwi said, yeah, that was pretty full on. I like it when they hurt them in dailies. I have no heart, obviously. I'm with you, Kiwi. Like, listen, I don't want anybody to get like hurt to the fact that they're like, it's life threatening or it's gonna, but again, like there has to be like an element of danger to these things. Like don't make it a completely kiddie friendly. We don't want to see the modified version of hall brawl become a thing in dailies as well, is what I'm trying to say. You know, there has to be an element of that still there. Dolores says, personally, I don't like it when they yank them. Maybe if they just drop the floor underneath them. Okay, but yanking, just don't personally like that, although I really would prefer pie in the face. And that's really what I was saying. Like, if you're going to go sideways, you're probably going to get hurt. But if you just drop like it's got like a glass floor, a trapdoor type of situation at the bottom, you're just going to go feet down first. Thana just looked it up. Hippos can run 30 kilometers an hour. That's crazy.
Respect the hippo, man. Respect the
Thana,
hippo.
can you also look? Can you look
crap.
up to see if they? Can you look up to see if they have statistics on how fast they can swim, because they swim really fast as well. That's the thing that freaks me out. Like 30 kilometers an hour is fast for
that's
the way
cheetah
that
speed,
built.
by the way. 30 kilometers an hour is like cheetah speed.
No, it's not cheetah speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, for humans, it's like they're like, because we can't, most of us can't run at 30 kilometers an hour, but a cheetah can run at 200 kilometers an hour.
200 kilometers an hour. 200
kilometers an hour. Cheetah can run at 200, but not for a very long time. It can only reach it for like a few seconds before. I don't know what that is in miles. Yeah, okay. Like, look at us. We're all learning about the African animals on this podcast. 8 kilometer in water hippos. Okay. That's still fast though. Like, I don't think people can swim that fast. Like, you're stuffed. And then Chris says that is not cheetah speed.
Okay. I was off on the cheetahs.
Cheetah.
I respect hippos way more than cheetahs. Cheetahs are not scary.
Okay, so I'm off as well. I'm off as well. So it's 80 to 130 kilometers an hour, and then that is about 75 miles per hour. But again, that is insane. That can keep up with my Golf GTI. That is not good, especially the way you're allowed to drive it in Australia, which isn't very fast. So it'll definitely keep up over here. Okay, let's move on from this. We go back to the house. It's the pizza party. We've got the people toasting. We've got people having a good time. And then Ace spoils it for Brad. And, you know, Brad knows he's going to go in. Bit of drama from that. We've kind of already spoken about it. I think the one thing we didn't talk about is the fact that Ryan didn't trust Tina. There's a big thing being made with Tina not being good when it comes to the voting game. Like, she's great TV, great entertainment. Obviously, I'm loving the fact that she is basically raking in the points for me this season on the draft with her drama confessional points. But when it comes to just playing the game and voting, that's a weakness of hers. And we do see it play out even when she has to vote. She has real difficulty putting anybody's name down. Do you think this is something that is being shown to us on purpose because it's going to be Tina's downfall in the game?
I mean, it already sort of... I didn't like it when she was copying flack for the Rachel one, because, like, what is she supposed to do? And even here, like, she's even saying, I'm really bad at this political strategy game. And I'm like, there's 6 people there. They've already kind of set the vote a little bit. She doesn't want to throw people in. Like, what? Like, she doesn't have that many choices. There's 4 people to pick from, with Ryan automatic no. So she burns a vote on Steve because she doesn't want to put in Brad or Adam. Like, it's not that bad of a political move. It's just that she's not necessarily doing what other people want her to do. But they've got very limited choices in the voting. So I'm not like super high on her. She's not trying to be like the biggest strategy player there is, but she's also not like killing any, like, she's not doing that bad. Like, there's not that many choices there to pick from.
Yeah. I think people are being a bit harsh on Tina. Like, I agree with you. Like, I guess the only thing is, with voting for Steve, people clearly knew she didn't want to pick a side. And in the challenge, that is seen as a cop-out. Where in other games, maybe it would be applauded as a great strategic move. In the challenge, you need to be all in. Show your cards. If you don't show your cards, you're kind of copping out a little bit. So I think that could still come back where no one will fully trust her or rely on her for a vote. But yeah, interesting dynamic there. And then I was quite interested to know that, you know, Ace ultimately does vote for Brad. Cara Maria's biggest reason for voting for Brad in this episode is because she doesn't want to be paired with him. She feels like if she's paired with him in the future...
That's harsh. That's dirty, man.
Yeah.
Like,
she's a game player.
Wow.
She's a game player. And I feel like Cara Maria has played more seasons with Brad than probably most. So I thought there would be a certain element of loyalty there where she would be like, I can't go for this guy. Like, I mean, I've played too many times with him, the personal relationships, yada, yada, yada. She was like, love Brad. He's a great human being, but I want to win the money. She's got that cutthroatness about her game. Again, something that's been missing on the main show when it comes to the Vacation Alliance. She's not opposed to making a move that needs to be made, which I think is lacking in the main show.
She's also been really fortunate and lucky that her and Jay, being so closely aligned, also happen to just perpetually be in that middle group. Like, she's throwing that influence around,
and Ace,
and really dictate, and Ace, and can really dictate where the vote goes, just always being in the voting power, which not necessarily intentionally, but man, it's worked out for them. She oversized influence, considering how she doesn't have that many friends in the house and has kind of been targeted by a lot of the people, but just they haven't really had the opportunity. So Kara's using what little power she's had very, very effectively in the voting.
She's using that ace in the hole.
Yeah, that sounded sexual.
The look that she gave him when he said that, and she just like waited for him to like realize how it came across, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that didn't really sound great." That was brilliant. But no, I think if Cara Maria finds a way to get to the end of this game, she's going to be difficult to stop. And regardless, she's got a streak to protect. Like, she hasn't not seen a final in many seasons. I forgot how many seasons it is now, but you know, she wants to get there, and she's showing us why she gets there more often than not when she makes these very difficult decisions on the fly very easily. Let's see what other people are saying here. Deeks is saying also Cara got so mad at Jasmine and Brandon for voting her in for game moves, but then she does the same thing to Brad. Seems odd. Well, that's a fair call. Man. Yeah, it's a fair call. It's a very fair call. But I think people will get upset regardless. I think this is the thing. Like, you always think you're in the right. You always that's these people who get chosen to play reality TV shows. And I think I'll hang on this and why I haven't been casted as of yet. And you guys can call me out if I do end up on Survivor Australia Brains versus Brawn season 2. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. If I'm ever actually out there, then you guys can say Chris is now a part of the narcissist club, because I feel like a lot of people who play reality TV are narcissists. Yeah, very entitled people. Like, they make for the best TV. They make for the best TV. Let's be real. You know, you want somebody that thinks they're always in the wrong or right. And I've said this before. I think Cara needs to feel like the victim sometimes, or the underdog, to perform at her best. That, like, her going in like, these guys did me wrong, gives her the fuel to go and win when it comes to eliminations. I think that's another reason why she needs that fuel. Let's see what people are saying here. Elisa's Dix, except Brad would be on an everybody problem, is they have to be in a group with him. Frank says that musical chairs with empty available seats sank Brad's season. Yeah. He was like, where was he? Like, he was not in South Africa when he was taking part in that daily. Like, his mind was somewhere else, is all I'm going to say. George is saying Cara and Ace's friendship is rather nice. Very unexpected friendship. I don't know if they even knew each other before the season, but they have kind of gravitated towards each other. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they probably just related on that. Dolores is saying true Cara has a rep to protect women power baby. George is saying I don't think it's the same thing. Cara doesn't hide her intentions. That's true. Yeah, that is true. Cara's been upfront about everything that she does. Where in the case of Brandon and them, they weren't being upfront about that they were going to vote in the way that they did. The problem
with that, Cara, from a position of privilege of her excellence in this game, how physically capable she is, she can be out on Front Street and say, I'm voting for this reason, because if you want to go against her, then it's going to be tough. Jasmine has to be a little bit smarter with the way she's doing it, right? And hide those intentions. Same as Brandon to an extent as well. Like, he's never been great at this game. Like, no one's as good as Cara pretty much in the house. So she can say what she means and mean what she says, because like, she can back it up. It's hard to be as upfront about your intentions to get someone good out when you're not as good as them. You know what I mean? Like, you got to hide it a little bit and be strategic.
Yeah. Dolores says, Chris, we best get a wink or something if you get on. Just saying. Listen, I wouldn't be able to confirm or deny anything on this podcast. All I'm saying is if I'm not here between July and August, it's because I'm on a work trip over in Barcelona. That would be the reason and nothing else. Palava Girl says, so far this season is palate cleanser from last regular 39, I've hopes. Yeah, it's been a good season, I think, so far. 39, like I said, had its ups and its downs. I do like some of the new group of players, mainly the ones who didn't win. You know, like if you look at Horacio, the Kylands, the Nerys, I really enjoyed that faction, that new group that is being created within the new school challenge. So I'm kind of interested to see how they do when they come back for season 40. No spoilers, please, because obviously I don't know anything about eliminations or anything like that. I just know that they're all coming back. And let's see what others are saying. Deke says Ace and Kara both live in Montana, I believe. Okay, so that would be another reason why they could be friends. I wasn't aware that they knew each other before the season. And then Shay's saying Ace and CT are still friends, I think because of real world season, so they have a CT connection. That makes sense because Kara and CT is very close as well. But ultimately, we do get, obviously the obvious thing happening here with Adam and Brad going in on the elimination, and they bring back the elimination with the controller. For this one, we didn't think we were going to see it again. We spoke about this last week where we said they could have always brought this back to do rather than the ropes. Now that we've seen it, was it better than the ropes? Do you reckon? Was it at the same level? Like, how do you feel about? I can't remember what they called it. Was it cheat code something? Cheat code rumble or something like that? But yeah, like, what did you think of this elimination?
I think it's one of those ones where, like, the game mechanics of it, I think it was a good like a really good challenge in concept. It wasn't a good TV challenge because, like, we're just getting tight shots of feet pressing buttons. You needed the confessionals. You needed Nicole to turn to someone and say, why is he pressing start and enter? Otherwise, we wouldn't have picked up that Brad was really messy. And then Brad had to say in the confessional, I'm messing up. I need to start over because of the way it sort of cuts. It's hard to see where people are and what is actually going on. Cheat codes. Yeah, like I did like it in concept, but I think it's hard to translate to a TV product because it's just people running back and forth and pressing buttons. Like you can't compare where they are.
Yeah, I feel like if I was to play in a challenge season with Chris, she would get rid of me in a heartbeat because I've already disappointed her here. Not knowing the elim name, clearly I'm a liability. TJ would have dropped the ball in my tube during the trivia because I couldn't remember the elimination name. I kind of, to be honest with you, it seemed just like a very simplistic memory challenge. Two different strategies being used. As soon as it had anything to do with slowing down, taking your time and memorizing something, I knew Brad was out. I was like, okay, Adam's got this. Brad doesn't have, like, he just does everything too fast. He doesn't have the ability to slow down and think about what he's doing. Like if it was smashing through walls, doing a pole wrestle, something physical, I think Brad would have been a lock to do extremely well. But Adam had the right strategy. He just broke it down into smaller sections when he was like repeating the cheat codes, right? So I think that when you look at that, overall, Adam dominated this specific elimination. And for me, I agree with you, it was kind of like hit and miss. It was fun. It was fun. I would say it was probably better than the rope. The rope for me was really, they were just lying down. It was very hard to tell.
I think it was also
ahead.
Harder than... Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
I think it was harder than it looked as well. Like I think it was actually more difficult than it actually looked, or we might give it, because they even did a thing where, like, on the rows of the code, some of them had 4, and then the next line had 6 before, because then the next line would stuff you up. So you can't do like 4 at a time because it's not done in 4 blocks. And also the buttons on the right side, which were the green ones, it wasn't like up, down, left, right. The bottom right one was pointing left, and like, so they were it wasn't like intuitive. You can't just sort of, go up, down, because it's that thing where, like, when you see not puzzles, but they do a thing where the color of the text is orange, but the word says blue, and your brain is like, is it orange or blue? Because so this one was like the bottom right hand corner is actually pointing left. It's not pointing down, like that kind of element, which makes it more hard, but doesn't come across as in a TV product,
Yep. Yeah, I got that. Definitely interesting. I didn't pick up on the buttons
So
not
that's
being
why
in
I
the
think
right
it was
place.
like,
Be
yeah,
Sorry, you're lagging behind a little bit on your internet connection at the moment. But yeah, I didn't see that the buttons weren't in the right place, because I do agree. Like, if you're someone that has played a lot of games before and you know a controller pretty well, you could probably hit the right buttons at the right time. Like, I was never really a big Game Boy or like PlayStation kid growing up when it comes to controllers. Like, I actually played more on computers and things like that. So I was like a mouse and keyboard player when I was a kid. So like, it wouldn't even have helped me in that instance. But like I said, it was a fine challenge or arena. I just think that a lot of the arena
yeah,
eliminations this season has not been as exciting as some of the other All-Star seasons. For me, it has fallen flat. If I had to be critical of one thing, it would be probably the eliminations at this stage. For me, just hasn't quite hit the same this season. I feel like it's lacking a little bit, and it's probably because of the fact that they have a lot of older players this season compared to even some of the other seasons when you've got like Durrell, Jordan, Wes, players like that in a season, Brad, like they're all capable of doing a normal season still. The level of eliminations
yeah.
are probably going to be at a higher level, but this season they brought back a lot more old school players. Chris is saying, no, we can still be partners on a season. I just will answer all the trivia questions for us. So you'd be the Veronica to my Leroy if we were out there doing a trivia one. And I think that'd be, listen, I think for this one, I would have been okay with some of the South African questions, but I would be more than happy to throw those ones your way. Dreadful Ruby is saying, I was disappointed with the questions. I love trivia, but this one wasn't great. Totally agree. Too many spelling bee questions also being brought into it. YouTube Cat says this elimination was a patience, memory, and endurance one. Totally agree. Palava Girl says Laurel scolding at Brad after Stadium Challenge was everything. It was so funny. It was like, she wasn't angry. She was disappointed at him. She was like, you got to get your head in the game. You're going to be better than this. Like, she wasn't even like,
Yeah.
normally Laurel, when she's angry, she screams. She didn't scream. She was just disappointed, which was even worse for Brad, I feel like. And then knowing how this season played out. Yeah, now knowing how this season played out for Brad, coming into season 39 as a champion and again performing poorly in that one, like, is it time for Brad to hang up? Like, is he done? Like, I think he's in season 40, isn't he? Is like, it's not looking good for the fella.
Yeah, Brad's not in a good spot. Like, when you see people, the athlete that plays just a couple too many seasons, and it kind of tarnishes the legacy. I don't want that for Brad. Not that he was ever like considered in the pantheon. He's not up there with the Bananas, CTs, and Jordans of the world, but he's still a champion and still a very good competitor. I don't want to see that kind of be like I did think that in this episode, like Kara saying, I don't even want to be paired with him. I'm like, come on, like that's this like he's not that bad. Like he's got it in his bag. Like he might not be focused, but he's definitely got the tools there. He just needs to be able to pull it out. And everyone has, like, they were saying the same thing about Leroy, but no one's going, I want Leroy out of the game so I don't possibly ever be paired with him. Like Leroy was having a bad season too, but that's a lot. That's harsh, man.
So where does Brad sit against Corey in your estimations at this stage? Like, if you had to compare Corey and Brad,
I mean, Corey's way better than Corey's going to be way better than Brad.
No,
Corey,
so by that saying, because I was gonna say he probably hasn't dropped into the Kahuna call out, Brad for a whole brawl challenge, sort of level yet. But if he's, in your estimation, better than Corey, are we gonna see you calling out Brad anytime soon for a hall brawl?
No,
is that what I'm hearing?
In a hall brawl, I mean, Corey would beat Brad in a hall brawl. So, yeah, I could definitely beat Brad in a hall brawl.
Oh, here we go. Kahuna's called out Brad, saying that he would definitely beat Brad in a hall brawl. New challenge unlocked here on the podcast, everyone. We need to make it happen. But I hear you. I hear you on Brad. Like, I really hope, like, it feels like he's at that point now where it could go either way for him. Maybe All Stars is the pocket he's going to continue to play in, but they're also looking at changing All Stars 5 with a lot more younger players coming in and CBS players coming in, I think last time I heard. So we haven't spoken much about that, but it seems like a different show. So maybe he doesn't fit into that pocket of All Stars any longer. But yeah, Kiwi saying, yes, Guna, the orange-blue thing, exactly. She knew what you were talking about. U2BCat is saying the boards were hidden from the cast. No one could help Adam or Brad. I like that. I totally agree. Right. I hate it when people on the sideline helps those that are in the arena. I feel like it should be between the two competitors going up against each other. Kiwi Skirt says, I think they are also trying to make it more fair so anyone can win in a limb. Kiwi is saying, I don't mind them making it more even in the limbs, but they could definitely do better camera angles for us. Need to be overhead so we can see the differences. Totally agree. Lizzie's saying Kara's real for that. Not sure what that's referring to, maybe because she was just
calling out
straight
Brad,
up.
but not wanting Brad.
U2BCat said a lot of Brad's partners were complaining about Brad not focusing. And Kiwi says, sorry, Kuna, but I'm with Kara on that. If you're having a bad season, then I don't want to partner with you, even if you're normally great. That's fair. It's fair. And normally the men do this to the women, right? So normally CT would be like, I don't want to run with Big T in the final. Like, I need to get rid of Big T. And then we're like, CT is playing the game. He's trying to better himself to win, and Kara should be able to do that as a woman. If a man's not holding, if they can't keep pace with her or with the other woman in the game, call him out. U2BCat says Brad, Corey, and Nelson are on the same tier. Man, Nelson. Hope we see the guy back now in the challenge one day. Like,
Corey's a step above the other two, I think, in my estimations.
Yeah. We've been chipping away for a very long time at Kahuna team. We've been chipping away. We're getting him to become a Corey stan. It's taken a while, but slowly but surely, we're dragging him to the water and we're making him drink the Kool-Aid. Corey Kool-Aid.
You need to understand. My thing with Corey is it's almost like disappointment because he should be much better than he has performed. He has all the tools as far as athleticism and size and strength. He should have won multiple seasons. And the fact that he hasn't says more for me. That's why I keep doing on the Corey train, because I think he should. I think he should be phenomenal at this game, and he's never been he's come second twice, I think, which is obviously nothing to sneeze at when you're going against the likes of Jordan and Bananas and things like that. He's obviously a great competitor, but I think it's that the Mamba mentality or the killer instinct or whatever you like to call it. I think that's lacking in Corey sometimes, and maybe that'll change. Obviously, I think he's a phenomenal athlete, which means that he should have been performing better than he has been.
Yeah. Chris says, Brad and Corey teaming up to humble your ass and hold, bro.
Trust me, my ass is
humble.
As long
as Kahuna's not calling me in there to tag team and help him out, don't drag me into your battles, Kahuna. I want nothing. I don't want any part of that, okay? Lissy's saying Brad doesn't even follow her on Instagram. They're not as friendly as some people might expect. When's the last season that Brad and her played together? I feel like it was Final Reckoning prior to this, and I remember Brad being kind of against the Paulie side of everything. So I don't know if there's like a connection there where they don't get along. And Paulie, I think he got really in Brad's head that season as well. So Kiwi says, not quite U2BCat. Brad has won before earlier seasons, but still win. Palava Girl says, no way, Kahuna. Brad is better in my opinion. I'm standing on it. 10 toes.
Oh, okay.
Well, Brad has won and Corey hasn't won. But I think if you had to compare them currently, I think Corey is better because he's a bit younger and he's more at his peak than Brad. I think Brad is over that peak at the moment. So I will defend you. I feel like if we had to look at a legacy, obviously Brad's got more of a legacy compared to Corey, but I think Corey is ahead of him based on current form.
Brad's legacy for me, and this is disrespect to Brad as well, but my biggest memory of Brad, and I'll never ever forget it, is that he was on the wrong side and lost to Marie's you want a pizza, me? That bit just lives in my memory.
I thought you were going to bring up Darrell
there.
Yeah, I thought you were going to bring up Darrell and Brad getting in Darrell's face and then getting his ass whooped.
No.
That's what always comes up when I think of younger Brad.
Marie.
Yeah. Dreadful Ruby said, I'd rather they just cast more of CBS players on the main show. If USA isn't coming back, let All Stars remain the greatness that it is. Like, I agree, Dreadful Ruby. I reckon All Stars is for the OGs. Like I've said, All Stars, if I'm being honest, it's not my favorite of all of the shows because I just don't have that history of when they were young, and I didn't watch it back in the day. But I do think that it should be OGs only. It is, they brought it in for a reason. It is, what you get with All Stars. Don't change it up. Don't take this away from the fans. You've already changed the main show and you're bringing in a whole bunch of new players. You're not sticking true to the OGs or the theme. Why are you like? I agree completely. We need to rant about this in a separate podcast. I've already spoken to Drew about this. We're gonna, at some point when this season's done or when Survivor's done, we'll get Chantal and Drew on a podcast with us, and we'll talk about the All Stars 5 news and also season 40, because we haven't actually done that on this channel as of yet. Dreadful Ruby says, if anyone has a heart to make it back, it is Nelson. Let's see what other people are saying. Kiwi saying, I'm sure Nelson will return to the challenge when he's ready. He's got some work to do. Like, I think people need to realize, like, losing, what it is, it's amputated just below his knee. So losing that part of your leg, it's going to be like, just for him to be able to run normally and do stuff, like, it's going to take a lot of work. And I agree. Yeah.
I saw on social media last night, he did a bit of a Willy Wonka. There was a video where he was on crutches and then he drops them and starts walking normally. He was doing some jumps, going up a ramp. So he's working on it. It's certainly doable. But, and if, as far as like athletes go, Nelson, he's got that. So he still looks great, but
got the heart.
He's gonna get there for sure. Yeah, like he dropped the crutches and was just trying to walk normally. Did some jumps, which is more than I can do. So good on him.
Yeah, no, amazing. I want to see Nelson. I want to see that comeback story. Shay saying, I feel the same way about Leroy Kahuna. He coasts too much and is relying too much on Cam's game. Yeah, it's like, I can't even defend that, Kona. Like, it's kind of true. Like, Leroy's always been that guy. Like, he was always, before Cam, it was Bananas. He was relying on Bananas to help him navigate the game. I don't think Leroy is ever going to be in his own right a strategic player or someone who drives. Like, I just think he's a really good 2IC. And now that Bananas isn't there, he's got Cam as his 2IC. Palava Girl says, add Josh to the Corey Nelly bag of, oh no, not again. And then YouTube Gat says Brad can win. He won the gauntlet, but it was on a team with his wife. Tori was the brains. Elise says, yeah, Brad was partnered with Kyle in Final Reckoning. And that's where I know there was like a lot of drama from way back. And Shay says Corey and Leroy are tied for the most final appearances without a win.
See, that's what
Corey's going to overtake that. Corey's going to overtake that probably.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Corey's got more longevity in the game. Kiwi saying, currently, yes, I see Corey beating Brad, but on their track record, it goes to Brad. Totally agree. Kahuna, remember that. Pizzagate. Yeah. Kiwi Skirt says, I think Brad gets flustered easily and is quite an emotional player. And then YouTube Gat says, All Stars is fun to see the folks over a long arc. It's like crazy family reunion. And Reality Realness is in. She wants to talk about all of the news. We've got All Stars 5 news to talk about. We've got season 40 to talk about. So when Survivor finishes, Chantal, I will have an additional time slot available where we can do some extra content. So we'll lock it in between yourself, Drew, Kahuna, and myself. We'll get together, we'll do a live, and we'll talk about all of the news. I know the fans will want to hear our thoughts on the cast. They want to know what we think about the news of All Stars 5 not really being that All Stars compared to what we've seen. So we'll get on to a podcast together to talk about it. Kiwi's also saying, I've been watching his vids and he's working his way there. I believe he'll do it. And that's for Nelly. Doris says, oh gosh, yes, challenge roundtable. Kahuna, Chris, Drew, and Chantal. It is going to happen, everybody. It definitely is going to happen. We've all been very busy. We've had busy schedules, but make sure to stay tuned. We're all going to be back on the podcast to talk about all of the action. And then Dolores says, I have a question. Is it really too early to go after a star? In my mind, it is. Like, I know even Cara Maria in the show is saying, like, hey, everybody should be going for stars right now. Why are people not doing it? We're halfway through the game. I just think that based on past twists like this, when you look at the Skulls twists, they always give them a chance to get it at the end. Maybe they'll follow through and do a purge this time. I just don't know if they will. So it could still be early. I think
it depends on what you mean by go after a star. Like, I think if you are getting a star, you have to accept that it can be taken pretty easily. But I think it's a really good time to go after a specific star. Like Kara, one of the problems with the challenge that I've always said is you need to time it, because if you're throwing people in early, someone like Kara, you throw in through elimination, she's probably going to come back. She's beating majority of people in majority of challenges. She's going to come back and then target you, which we've seen already. Like she's gunning for Cam, threw Leroy in after coming back against Rachel. But the difference in this specific season, the format, the way it works, if you can take Kara's star, you can rig it so that she can't get another star, because she either has to come first to throw herself in specifically, or even if she comes in the bottom group to be eligible to be thrown in, you just don't vote her in. So if they were smart, someone takes Kara's vote, they could really dictate it so she doesn't have another chance to go in unless she wins dailies. She has to win the daily, then she has to throw her in. So the path to getting a star back for someone like Kara, who is such a target and so strong, is more difficult. So it actually works in that favor. So you could make that move now and then kind of work it and finesse it and massage it so she doesn't have that opportunity. But you have to also know that my star can be taken. We can just protect it from being taken by someone like Kara. You know what I mean? So it's kind of got that dual element to it.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I couldn't have said it better. And, you know, obviously Shay here bringing up that it's also a shorter season, only 12 episodes, with 11 and 12 being a two-part finale. So realistically, 3 more episodes for everybody to get a star. So maybe we will see a purge finally here. It would be devastating to see someone like Cara Maria lose it at the end. And then not be able to run a final, which the risk is there for something like that to happen in the game. What did you think of Leroy's choice of not to go in and get the star for Cam? Do you think that he's going to regret it? Do you think this is something where if there is a purge, Cam doesn't get a shot at getting that star? She's been trying to get it the whole time. You know, damned if you do, damned if you don't at this stage. What would you have done in his situation?
No, like if you're seeing it as a partnership and we're in this together, one of them have a star now, you got to hold on to that by throwing himself in and then potentially going home while losing a star in the same way, in the same elimination. Like, it doesn't help Cam in that regard, right? If he looked at it and saw a challenge that he could like an elimination that he could really do well, then maybe. But against Adam or Brad, 2 very strong competitors in a challenge, which I don't necessarily think is Leroy's bag necessarily. Like, I don't know what his specialty would be, to be honest with you, like what he'd really excel at. But I don't think physical. He would be. Yeah, but even and that,
athletic.
like
anything athletic.
Yeah, athletic. Yeah, he won a maze, like a hanging maze thing, which is labyrinth type thing. But so he obviously was good in that. But I don't think that it stood out to him as something I could really dominate and guarantee a win. Yeah. Unlike Nicole against Jasmine in the rope rumble, you know what I mean? Like,
listen, Palaver Girl's coming for Leroy and YouTube Cat by the looks of it, saying, agreed, I feel the same with Leroy and Cam. She should be the player and he stays home with the baby. Love him, but they're saying Cam should be the one. But Cam's, I believe, still pregnant, or maybe have just had his second baby. So I feel like Cam's definitely out. Like, if there's going to be someone that can compete in the near future, it would be Leroy, really. Again, I should really look at season 40 cast. I've seen it, and then it's just out of my memory. I don't remember if Leroy, is Leroy in that season? Like, I feel like Leroy is someone that would fit that theme really well.
I can't even remember now.
I can't remember. Yeah,
like I know the big names.
Yeah, well, you're saying that Leroy's not a big name, Kuna?
I mean, when what sticks in my memory as far as who could possibly win, I don't have Leroy in the same group as a.
Sorry, I set you up.
You know, Cara.
Yeah. Brian Smith, welcome to the live, says, I believe it will be like Island, either the keys where anyone that doesn't have a star at the end before the final will compete for a star. I feel like everybody will get a shot at the end, to be honest. YouTube Cat said Leroy would have lost that elimination. So Guna went on a whole tangent as to why he shouldn't have done. YouTube Cat's just like, yeah.
I reckon he would have beat Brad the way Brad performed in that, and he was
Probably,
scattered.
yeah. I think he would have.
Like, he wouldn't beat Adam, but he could have beat Brad. But it's an unknown, right?
Yeah, Chris says, nah, Cam has to get her own star. You're on your own, babe. Leroy is a wingman. Totally agree. Danica says, Danica, welcome, by the way, to the live. Says, yikes, just got back to the condo. I'll go set up my computer. We're nearly done here, Danica, but let us know your thoughts afterwards in the comment section, and we will respond back to it. Dolores is saying, Leroy should try to influence somebody to go down there who may already have a star, win it, and give it to Cam. Yeah, that's another great way. Yeah, it'd be tough. It'd be tough. I don't know if Leroy's got that, if he's got the voodoo to be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
He's no Wes Bergman. Shai saying, yes, Leroy is in 40. There we go. Cam just had baby number 2. Go Cam. I love the fact that they're just winning at life. You know, it's so good to see a challenge relationship that is positive. Like there's actually, you know, work out. And Leroy and Cam is the reason that I haven't given up on the dating game myself at this stage, Kuna. You know, if they break up, it may be all over for me. I'd just be single the rest of my life. But I believe in true love because Leroy and Cam, they're still together, right? So there is hope for someone like me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple goals.
Palava Girl says, hashtag killer Cam. She's a beast. And U2 Bearcat says, I don't think Leroy has the skills to do that. And Laura says, Leroy would have lost, and he knows he would have lost. I missed the live again. Hey, Joanne, check it out if you want to see some of the thoughts. We went on a wild ride on this live today. Okay, let me sell it to you. We started off talking about the challenge, then we went to the Olympics. Somehow, I blame Chris for that. By the way, she's the one who took us there. Then we touched on the Olympics a little bit, and we spoke a little bit about what happens in the athlete camp outside of Olympics. And then after that, we went on to the Big Five in South Africa. A lot of South African trivia questions were sort of talked about, a little bit of spiciness with the whole Ryan situation. And we circled back to, is Brad washed? Is he over? Did Leroy make the right decision? Lots were discussed, but, half of the reason that we went on a tangent was because of Chris. She couldn't keep us on point in this live, I think, Kerna. She took us to the Olympics. I don't know why.
And Hippo Talk. I'm a hippo truther.
Yeah, hippo
educated people.
Yeah, we figured out. We figured out the speed of the hippo, the speed of a cheetah. Like this is educational live. YouTube Cat says season 40 just finished filming, and I don't want to know any of the spoilers, but I'm excited. Let me just say that. Chris, you're sentimental. I can be sometimes. In this very ice cold heart of mine that is all about strategy talk all the time. But yeah, I love seeing. Sorry?
Chris is a lover and a fighter.
Yeah. I've got a mix of both. I'm fire and ice. Chris, that's why they couldn't cast me on Brains versus Brawn. Let's be honest. They wouldn't know. Is he a Brain?
How do you be in both tribes?
Exactly. How can I be at both places at the same time? Chris is saying, see, you are still in your 30s acting like your time for a relationship is almost past you. No, I know. No, it's definitely not past me. I haven't given up hope. But Leroy and Cam, please make it work long term. Because like I said, if they break up, that might be it. That might be the thing that sends me over the edge. Dolores says, Chris, if you go on Survivor Area, please do not have an island showmance. Imagine going on, like you've been wanting to play the game for so long, and then you get like, it's going to sound so bad, but like what happened with D and Austin. Austin fell for love, and D took the sweet money home. Like, I do not want to be like, I love Austin, but I don't want to be in Austin for sure. If I played Survivor,
no, you can be Boston Rob and Amber, man.
Yeah. Danica says, do you think Cam will be back after baby 2? I think she will. And Reality Realness says, maybe you'll meet your Amber on Survivor, Chris, just like Austin. Austin went to Survivor to go meet his Amber. He said it in the preseason. He thought he met his Amber, and then his Amber ran away with the money. So I don't know. I don't know about that. Chris is saying, excuse me. Now, why am I in this? Hey, I just gave a recap, Chris. I was just bringing Joanne up to speed. Joanne wanted to know what happened in the live. The Lava Girl says, Dolores, I vote for Chris Showmance if he goes on Survivor AU.
You'll get airtime. You'll get confessionals. That's for sure.
100%. And maybe the Amazing Race afterwards. You never know.
Yeah.
Go on one knee afterwards. Do the old proposal thing and everything. That hasn't been done yet. Well, they don't. They have to have that. Yeah, I'd have to do it at Final Tribal because they don't do reunions in AU. So to be a first, no one's proposed yet on Survivor AU.
Huge.
Could be a first. And we know that Australians love Married at First Sight. So I feel like it'd automatically just be very
I'll
popular
have
in
the actual
Australia.
ceremony.
JLP officiating the wedding on the island. This is going very off the rails very quickly here. Danica saying 40 is finished. Good. Maybe the Bananas podcast will be back soon. Does that mean Bananas stayed for a very long time, Danica? Is that a spoiler? Did Bananas win? YouTube Cat says there are men who marry for the first time in their 50s. And Danica says you and Michelle should go on the Amazing Race. Love to do the Amazing Race. And I just feel like Chantal and will also want to go on the Amazing Race. So it'd have to be between Chantal and Michelle. Like both of them would love to go do the Amazing Race, I think, at this stage. So two great ladies to choose from when it comes to the Amazing Race. Who do you guys think I would like? And it's hard because we've got Chantal in the life. We don't have Michelle here, but I feel like Chantal would add some spice to that as well. YouTube Gat says Amber slept with Wendell. What?
No, Austin's Amber being D.
Oh, yeah, I know about that. Yeah, I know about that. Yeah. Plavagul says exactly proposal. Oh man, my ribs hurt. And then Danica says no, he just hasn't posted in a long time. I don't have time for spoilers. Amazing Race is with me. No. Yes. Yes.
Chris gets to do too. He can go on US Amazing Race with Chantal and do Aussie Amazing Race with Michelle.
Canada with imagine. I first need to get on a show, guys. Like, let's get me onto Survivor so that hopefully I can, because Australian Amazing Race don't do normal editions anymore. It's celebrity editions.
Yeah,
so I have to go onto Survivor first to be able to come back. So keep hope alive that I can actually get onto one of these shows so that we can actually get Chantal or Michelle to do an Amazing Race season with me. But this has been a lot of fun. We've spoken a lot about the challenge. We've had a lot of fun just in general, talking about all of the silliness associated with this season and, you know, future seasons that's going to come. Is there anything that we missed, Kona? Do you feel like we missed out on talking about anything from this episode?
Man, I had a lot of fun. If we missed it, it wasn't worth talking about. Like, we started out saying that it was a pretty straightforward episode. It was pretty brisk. There wasn't that much extra in it. And we've gone for an hour 22 of talking some real fun stuff with the chat. So I enjoyed this a lot, actually.
Yeah, and listen, the chat just keeps boosting me. Like, Chris, you're not a celebrity. Like, almost like I'm doubting myself. And then everybody's saying I'm their celebrity. Canada's Amazing Race is bad. Okay, it's not good. Great live as usual. Like and subscribe, everybody. Yes, please. If you like this content, the silliness of this channel, we have a lot of fun coming live to you every weekend here on the Nullified Take channel, talking about all of what's happened on the challenge, all of what's happened on Survivor. I spoke to Kahuna before we went live, and I said we do need to get together to talk about Survivor US versus Australian Survivor in a podcast format. So expect there to be some announcement on when we can get the boys together to jump on a podcast to talk about that in the next week or so as well. Very exciting news knowing that Australian Survivor will have a season that puts the best from USA versus the best from Australia. I'm excited to go into a deep dive on that. But tomorrow we'll be back to talk about Survivor US, the latest episode. I still have to go and watch it. And so please don't spoil that. But we will be back tomorrow, same time, to talk about that as well. For now, everybody, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you jumping into the live and taking part in the conversation. We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.